What if I told you one of the most successful investors out there completely ignores balance sheets and instead gets his trading signals from reading TikTok comments? It sounds absolutely insane, right? But this exact strategy created a true market wizard. And his story, well, it's about a lot more than just money. It's about a fundamental shift in how the world might work and what's coming next for all of us.
So let's just start with the number that gets everyone's attention, $80 million. That's the gross return Chris Camillo says he's made from a starting pot of just $20,000. I mean, a number like that just forces you to ask one question. How? How is that even possible?
Well, his journey is just wild. He starts out in the mid-2000s with that 20 grand. In just 2 years, he hits $2 million and quits his high-paying tech job. He literally writes a book about it called Laughing at Wall Street, and then just keeps going for almost 2 decades. So what is this secret method?
He calls it social arbitrage. And the whole thing is built not on some complex financial model, but on something we all have access to, just watching people, seeing what they're obsessed with on social media.
The big idea here is actually pretty simple. You find these cultural waves on social media before they show up in a quarterly earnings report. He's looking for those products that are sold out everywhere and invests before Wall Street even knows what's happening. You know, his first huge wins were on things like Uggy boots, Crocs, and True Religion jeans. He saw them blowing up in the real world way before their stocks took off.
So now Camillo's taking that same lens and pointing it at the biggest trend on the planet, artificial intelligence, and he's making a huge claim. He says what we're seeing right now isn't just another tech bubble that's going to pop. No, he thinks it's a super cycle, something he's calling the Great Reset.
And he draws this really critical line in the sand between now and the dot-com bust. Back then, all this money was flooding into ideas that weren't really useful yet. The capital was moving way faster than the actual adoption. But today, he argues it's the complete opposite. People are actually using the stuff, and the productivity gains are happening right now. The investment money is actually playing catch-up.
And yeah, he is absolutely putting his money where his mouth is. He's making huge bets on the raw infrastructure of this AI revolution. He's all in on Amazon, not because of shopping, but because AI is going to supercharge their logistics. He's betting on Bloom Energy to solve the insane energy problem that AI data centers are creating. He's even in on these obscure but critical companies like Rigaku that make the gear to inspect the most advanced chips.
But this quote gets to the real core of his thesis. He actually said, "I think the next billion-dollar company can be built by a single person without any employees." He truly believes we're at this moment where all the old barriers to starting a business, needing a ton of money, a big team, they're just crumbling away. And it's all because of this new kind of AI that he's incredibly passionate about, agentic AI.
He talks about these systems, like one called OpenClaw, where you can basically give an AI its own identity, its own email, its own social media, even its own credit card. Then you give it a complex goal, and this AI agent just works 24/7, autonomously building a business, doing research, whatever you told it to do. It's like having an entire workforce you can launch from a single computer.
And this is the absolute bombshell. He claims they basically replicated 18 years of my work in 48 hours. He's saying that people are using these tools right now to recreate his entire life's work with just a simple voice command. That's the kind of speed and power he thinks is about to totally reshape our economy.
It's an incredible vision. It's exciting. But it also makes you stop and ask a pretty serious question. Is this really the dawn of some golden age of opportunity for everyone? Or is it more like a high-wire act with no safety net, being led by someone with an unbelievable appetite for risk?
So let's just pump the brakes for a second. To really get what's going on here, we have to try and separate the powerful signal from what is undeniably a whole lot of hype. And when you look at the fine print, a few things pop out. First, there's classic survivorship bias. We're hearing his story because he's the one who won big, not the thousands who probably tried something similar and failed. He's an extreme outlier, not a recipe you can just copy. And that 1-year window he talks about, it creates a ton of FOMO, but it's probably more about marketing than reality. Plus, these AI tools, as cool as they are, still have huge problems with being reliable and secure.
And then there's the risk factor. This is a big one. Camillo admits he's fully margined. That means he's borrowing as much money as he possibly can to make these huge, concentrated bets. It's an all-or-nothing approach that makes the wins bigger, but the losses, devastating. And he admits he's taken some major hits recently. This is not a strategy for normal people.
And if you need one example that just perfectly captures this level of risk, get this. He advised an 11-year-old kid to put her entire $500 savings plus another $500 of borrowed money into a super risky options trade. I mean, it's just a shocking illustration of his extreme tolerance for risk.
So as you can imagine, the public reaction to this guy is just all over the place. You have the believers who are already using these AI tools and are screaming, the Great Reset is here. Then you have the skeptics who see totally reckless advice in a textbook case of survivorship bias. And then there's this third group who think the only safe place left will be in offline, real-world businesses built on trust.
But here's the twist. This is the paradox at the very heart of his story. The man who is maybe the biggest bull on AI's potential for making money now admits that for the first time, he's actually worried about something much bigger than the stock market. He's worried about existential risk.
And his fears are very specific. He's talking about AI starting to write and improve its own code, accelerating in ways we just can't predict. He's worried about AI being used to design bioweapons. And he's calling for urgent global cooperation on the level of nuclear arms treaties.
And this brings us to the most important part of this whole story. That tension between his unbelievable optimism for the market and his deep-seated fear of the technology. It reveals this huge, gaping hole at the center of the AI revolution. It's the governance gap. And you can see his blind spot crystal clear in this quote. He says that inequality and all these other problems will take care of itself through politics, and that you just have to assume that we'll figure it out. That assumption right there, that the rules and safeguards will just magically appear, that is the central fallacy. Think about it. The very future he's describing, this economy run by autonomous AI agents with their own credit cards, it creates an immediate, desperate need for a whole new kind of infrastructure. You can't have an economy of bots without some way to manage digital identity, to establish trust, to know who or what you're even dealing with. And that's exactly why his fear is such an important signal. When the person calling for nuclear arms treaty-style cooperation isn't an AI safety researcher, but a pure market guy who's just focused on profit, that tells you something has fundamentally changed. The urgency is breaking out of the labs and hitting the real world.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Camillo's story connects all the dots for us. His investment thesis shows us the new infrastructure we're going to need. His grand claims about democratizing everything reveal these deep governance gaps. And his very real fears about existential risk scream for concrete policy, not just hoping for the best.
Which leaves us with one final urgent question. The market is moving at the speed of light, but building safety, trust, and guardrails, that moves at the speed of people. So if even the market's biggest risk takers are starting to call for guardrails, who exactly is supposed to build them? And will they do it in time?